This coming Sunday is the seventh Sunday in Ordinary Time. Since we will observe Ash Wednesday this coming week, really just a week away, and the start of a new liturgical season, the season of Lent, well, this will be our last Sunday in Ordinary Time for a while, until after Lent and after the Easter seasons. Our gospel passage comes from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5, verses 38 to 48. It is a continuation of the passage from last Sunday, the Sermon on the Mount. It was an important lesson for the disciples. It's an important lesson about how to handle retribution and how to love one's enemy. And I'm sure it was not an easy lesson for them to learn, not an easy lesson for them to try to figure out what Jesus was saying. Not an easy lesson for us either. Let's take a listen. Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, offer no resistance to one who is evil. When someone strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other one as well. If anyone wants to go to law with you over your tunic, hand over your cloak as well. Should anyone press you into service for 1 mile, go for 2 miles. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not turn your back on one who wants to borrow. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your heavenly Father. For he makes his sun rise on the bad and the good, and causes rain to fall on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what recompense will you have? Do not the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brothers only, what is unusual about that? Do not the pagans do the same? So be perfect, just as your heavenly Father is perfect." The people of Jesus' time, and even for people today, I think we understand that phrase, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Believe it or not, it was an improvement on the kind of escalating violence that was part of that culture. For example, if a person stole someone's goat, then that person who had the goat stolen might go and take 6 sheep from that first person. And it might go back and forth with the violence escalating, becoming just a little bit worse each time. Jesus is saying that the playing field being even that needs to change. He then tells his disciples that they must love their enemies. What might their reaction have been? These 2 teachings were really reversals of what would have been commonly accepted practices in his own time. Jesus' teaching is radical in that it is totally new and would have startled his hearers. It might startle or surprise us also. He wants us to love our enemies. In the reversal, he's really pointing to a greater reality, that we are all made in the image and likeness of God. The passage says, he makes the sun rise on the bad and the good, and causes the rain to fall on the just and the unjust. There is a kind of radical equality he is calling us to accept based on our radical dignity, a dignity that would have crossed prejudices and social attitudes. So often in the Gospels, he spoke and dined with tax collectors, prostitutes, and sinners, those on the social margins. And he reminded them of their great dignity. So, who are our enemies? Our country has enemies. On an individual basis, who might I consider enemies? Who would be my enemies? It is possible that our enemies are those that we choose to have nothing to do with. They don't even enjoy the dignity of being acknowledged. Our enemies might be those with whom we pick fights with once in a while, not a physical fight, but one with a destructive edge to it. Are our enemies in any way potential friends? Let the gospel fill your week. See you in church. For now, God bless.